So you have interview transcripts, but how do you convert those raw words into a publishable qualitative research model? It is, without a doubt, a universal struggle. I mean, you've asked the open-ended questions, your participants have generously shared their lived experiences, and now you're just staring at massive, intimidating piles of text. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are taking on the qualitative coding process headfirst by exploring the Joya method. Developed by Dennis Joya and his colleagues, this is an incredibly systematic approach that basically transforms messy participant statements into beautifully structured concepts, themes, and dimensions. It has become wildly popular in management, organization studies, entrepreneurship, strategy, innovation, and across the social sciences. Why? Because it manages to do two things at once. It preserves the authentic voices of your participants while fiercely supporting rigorous theory building. Okay, let's dive into this. We have a clear 6-step roadmap that's going to anchor our methodological journey today. We'll cover making sense of data, inductive versus deductive logic, the qualitative coding process itself, building themes and theories, software and transparency tools, and we'll wrap up with proving validity and rigor. Let's get started. Section 1, Making Sense of Data, the Researcher's Journey. I'm speaking directly to you right now, the postgraduate student, the doctoral scholar, or the early-stage researcher who is currently staring down a literal mountain of text. You have your transcripts, now what? Well, the Joya method is your systematic solution to this overwhelm. Instead of just drowning in endless pages, this method gives you 3 clear, incredibly manageable levels to help you navigate first-order concepts, second-order themes, and aggregate dimensions. Think of it as your personal roadmap to get you out of the weeds of raw data and up into high-level publishable analysis.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core philosophy of the method, which acts almost exactly like a giant funnel. You take all that wide, messy, raw data at the very bottom, your transcripts and field notes. From there, you systematically prepare, read, and reduce that data by coding it. You're taking those raw statements and literally funneling them upward, distilling them into broader descriptions, and ultimately interrelating them to build clear theoretical frameworks. It's a highly structured ascent from extremely specific participant details up to abstract academic concepts.
Section 2, Inductive versus Deductive Logic. Before you even touch your data, you really have to understand your logical lens. You generally have 2 primary theoretical foundations here. Inductive logic is a bottom-up approach. This is where you discover patterns directly in the raw data to build a totally new theory. You start with the particulars and work your way up. Deductive logic, on the other hand, is a top-down approach where you test an already existing theory against your new data. Now, the Joya method is primarily an inductive, bottom-up approach. You absolutely want the data to speak for itself first. But actually, scratch that. It's not purely inductive forever. It can certainly be informed by deductive theory later on during the higher-level interpretation phases. And that dynamic interplay brings us to a really great term, abduction. Abduction is the process of moving fluidly between inductive and deductive thinking to gain insights and examine new conceptual possibilities. In the context of the Joya method, abduction is the precise mechanism you use when you are transitioning between raw participant language, which is inductive, and academic theory, which is deductive. You might notice a surprising, unexpected pattern in the interviews, formulate a tentative hypothesis about it, and then deductively check that against existing literature. It's a constant back-and-forth dance. Section 3, the qualitative coding process. Time to get into the core mechanics. So coding is essentially the analytical process of fracturing your data to see what is really happening beneath the surface. And these 3 practical steps are exactly how you generate what the Joya method calls first-order concepts. Step 1 is just reading through all your data to get a general sense of the tone. Step 2 is bracketing chunks of information, physically or digitally segmenting the text into digestible pieces. And step 3 is assigning code labels to summarize the meaning of those chunks. Crucially, these first-order concepts must rigorously reflect the participant's exact language. You want to avoid academic jargon entirely at this stage. Now, what's really interesting about this is how preserving the participant's authentic voice is the absolute hallmark of this method. When you're building first-order concepts, utilizing in vivo codes is a massive game changer. This basically means labeling your categories with terms based in the actual specific language of the participant. For example, if a participant calls a terrible workplace schedule a toxic shift, your first-order concept should literally be labeled toxic shift. It grounds your research in reality and creates these incredibly rich, authentic sound bites. To put some academic weight behind this, Categorizing analysis begins with the identification of units or segments of data that seem important or meaningful in some way. This process requires your active, creative interpretation as a researcher. But a quick warning here, researchers often fall into some common traps. A major mistake is over-theorizing those first-order codes or entirely ignoring the participants' natural language to force academic jargon into the analysis way too early. You have to let the raw data breathe before you try to categorize it theoretically. As you generate that massive, long list of first-order concepts, you have to engage in what's known as constant comparison. You are continually sifting and comparing elements to check for similarities, differences, and consistency as you code. Constant comparison is exactly how you start grouping those numerous, very specific first-order concepts into broader second-order themes. Remember, while first-order concepts represent the participant's voice, second-order themes represent your active interpretation as a researcher. Section 4. Building themes and theories. Let's synthesize this framework. Let's look at a practical example and see how this builds into the famous visual 3-column geodata structure. Imagine you're researching a construction supply chain, specifically looking at green supply chain management. A participant might say, "I didn't get the email until Tuesday." Well, that raw quote directly becomes a first-order concept of delayed information sharing. Through constant comparison with other data, that specific concept gets elevated into a researcher-interpreted second-order theme, like coordination breakdown. We are literally building an architecture of meaning here, linking raw words directly to concepts and then to themes with perfect traceability. This synthesis process ultimately requires finalizing your analysis. In the Joya method, this means combining those interpreted second-order themes into final aggregate dimensions. Going back to our green supply chain example, the second-order theme of coordination breakdown would ultimately contribute to a much broader theoretical category, an aggregate dimension like interorganizational collaboration challenges. That final dimension captures the broad theoretical essence of what is happening across your entire dataset. It's the big aha moment. Section 5. Software and transparency tools. Now, managing this multi-layered framework can get pretty complex, which is where qualitative data analysis software, or QDAS, becomes an absolute lifesaver. When you're reporting your methods section for publication, you have to comprehensively explain your interviews, participant demographics, transcription process, coding strategies, and data triangulation. Software tracks all of this dynamically. It maps exactly how you developed your data structure, seamlessly linking analytical memos right to specific codes, which makes writing that final methodology paper incredibly straightforward. And this connects perfectly back to broader qualitative research traditions. Systematic documentation is absolutely non-negotiable. Good software usage essentially equals good methodology because it aligns with rigorous standards for documenting qualitative data collection. It builds a deeply documented, bulletproof foundation for your findings that will stand up to the heaviest academic scrutiny. Section 6. Proving validity and rigor. Time to prove your work. So the crucial point is this: a transparent process equals a documented audit trail. Reviewer acceptance relies heavily on transparency. Building a robust 3-column Joya data structure proves to your academic review panel exactly how you moved from subjective raw interviews to rigorous objective theory. When a review panel can trace an aggregate dimension down to a second-order theme, down to a first-order concept, and finally right back to a participant's exact quote, well, you build ultimate trust. Ultimately, the Joya method fundamentally strengthens qualitative research transparency. It empowers you to build clear, highly publishable theoretical models from piles of raw interview data. So, my question for you is, how will you document your own audit trail to reveal the theory hidden in your data? I really hope this explainer has given you the systematic, structured steps you need to confidently approach your transcripts and build some truly rigorous frameworks. Thank you so much for joining me, and happy coding.